Hi, I'm just trying to put my words out there for people to hear, just because I think that we are in a strange place and time in history. And just want to throw my 2 cents in for those that want to hear them. If you don't, stop listening. You know, in the late 1700s, before our country was founded, a lot of thoughts were going through people's heads that were founded in freedom. And they found this freedom from their interpretation of the works of a man that we believed lived, named Jesus of Nazareth. There was a pamphlet that was written by Thomas Paine named Common Sense, where he states his ideas of how governments are formed and why they're formed in the first place. And he was the catalyst in a lot of ways to create freedom for us by inspiring other men to then declare themselves independent of the British Crown, but always founded on common sense. Today I'm going to talk to you in what's common sense in the year 2012, because what we know today is obviously more than what people knew 236 years ago. Common sense. Common sense is what? What everybody agrees is pretty much factually true, not based on formal education, but based on what is common knowledge. And today we have access to all the information in the world, most of it at our fingertips with our smartphones and the computer systems or the internet. And we don't have to be ignorant at all. Today, ignorance is a choice. Well, why do I find it important for me to put myself on screen and ridiculed by some and praised by others? Because I think that we're in a unique point in human history, or at least American history, where things can go in so many different directions, and most of them are not with pretty results at the end. The good thing is that today we have information, and we don't have to make the same mistakes that were made in the past, because today we don't have to be ignorant. Just like those men in the late 1700s, founded on principles of good and evil, maybe not so much believing that there was a man in the sky who was directing every single affair in human existence, but a belief that there are positive and negative forces. Today, a lot of us are feeling the effects of depression, feeling the effects of anxiety, of stress, and all because we have lack of knowledge of simple things that people knew for thousands of years. The existence of good and evil. Today we want to pacify things, we want to be permissive of ills that afflict us all. We want to understand it better than fixing the problem. We want to take a pill to change a certain chemistry in our brain, when a lot of times it's just a normal function of being human. Human beings have ups and they have downs. That's just our nature. We have time to rest and time to be joyful, time to work and time to not to work. And so if we are ignorant of the basic function of what it is to be human, then we find ourselves in the situation that we find ourselves in today. There's a lot of pain out there. There's people that have lost millions of dollars and today find themselves homeless. There's people that didn't lose as much, but still suffer the same. And there's people that are making a lot of money in this time of need on the backs of all those tears that we experience down here at the bottom. It's a basic flaw in our understanding of what is going on in our world today. We are missing the most important ingredient. An argument for or against God is not something new. It's not something that scientists have developed today, incredulous nature. It's always been there. There is that percentage of people that absolutely only focus on reason, and there's another percentage of people that really only focus on faith. The problem is that both are incorrect. We are a product of something that we ourselves can't understand. The universe has been around for a long time, and it will be here way after we are gone. So what should concern us about, what we should be concerned about, is really what's going on in our lives today. How can we affect the world around us? instead of really focusing on the bigger picture, because that should be left for others that should be wise enough to be able to make those decisions for us. At least that's how government was initially instituted amongst men or humans in this country, with consent of the governed. Then that's how we instituted governments. Today, the government is imposing on us depression, anxiety, stressfulness. And because we're not taking care of our own affairs in our own world, which is inside our minds, individually, then we are all suffering. So what do we do? How do we change this? I've been racking my brain, going crazy trying to figure it out myself. And no matter what I learn or what I read, it always takes me back to one person that we believe existed. And some people don't. But the words are amazing. And that man was Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, in my opinion, was probably one of the most awesome guys that have ever walked on earth. If you really understand what he was trying to say, he wasn't talking about him being perfect. He was actually talking about how imperfect we really all are. And how hypocritical we are by looking at others as the cause of our problems instead of looking at ourselves directly in the mirror. Because we are the cause of our problems. Each and every single one of us. The government that we have today is a reflection of who we are as people. If you see corruption creeping up in government, it's because we're all corrupt. All peoples get the government that they deserve. And obviously today we deserve a government where men stand on stage and lie to us, asking us for our vote. Look, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I can make my assumptions based on history. And on Tuesday, this November, we have our election. And it's going to be between two men, even though there's multiple men running, but there's two men. One Barack Obama and one Mitt Romney. They're both evil, one less than the other. I myself will vote for Romney just out of history, just looking at the history of the past, saying what is a better momentary solution to our problems. Mitt Romney, just because I equate him to Calvin Coolidge in the 1920s and Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, and the next 2 years should be okay if history repeats itself, and it always does. At least it rhymes. I don't know what would happen if Barack Obama wins. History would tell us that despotism will come, not because Barack is a bad guy, but because that's the tendency of that thought process. It won't be Barack because he will only have 4 more years, and we're not Venezuela where you could change the constitution and have Chavez be president forever until the people figure it out. Here, he only has 4 more years. But what's insidious about this is that it's a mindset. And the mindset has always been that it's not you, it's the government, and it's all of us. So for that reason, I would rather go with Mitt Romney, even though I know he's lying. But I'm hoping that because of his religious beliefs, that there's something good in him that might produce something better. Now, keep in mind that if history repeats itself, just like George Bush created some expansion, and there was a lot of trickle down. A lot of people were really wealthy 5 years ago. I mean, there was people that were greeters at Walmart that were sitting in a $600,000 home here in California. So a lot of people benefited from it, but then there was a crash. So I believe that no matter what, in a few years, 6, 7 years down the line, it is a report, even according to Moody's and S&P, that there could be even social unrest in our country down the line because of our ills in our economy. Those are givens. Are we going to be prepared for what happens afterwards when the next crash comes, probably within this decade? And it won't be like the one we just had. This one will be more catastrophic because all we're doing is postponing the pain. There's an answer to this. And it goes back to Jesus. Now, I'm not talking about the religious Jesus that we have from the Catholic Church and everybody else coming off of that. Bad fruit is bad fruit. And a government-instituted book like the Bible is still a government-instituted book that was done by the Roman government in about 350 after Christ. So we need to dig a little bit deeper of what this man really meant and what he really did try to teach us. It's all there. We just are blind because we don't want to spend the time reading those words. And I recommend that you read the Bible in the most modern English possible, in the language that you understand the best, so you could actually understand how sublime those words of Christ were. Because he has answers for all of us. Suffering needlessly when you have the mindset of Christ. And it's just the mindset. It's a spirit that he left behind. Just like many men have left spirits behind. Today we are a product of Martin Luther King and his spirit, who fought injustice that was in the midst of him just a few years ago. Or Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves, and his spirit left us the original intent of the Republican Party. We are all part of our history, wherever we come from, our culture, the people that are around us. I'm asking every single one of us, over this next couple days and going forward, to take responsibility and be accountable for our lives. People criticize Mitt Romney about talking about the 47% being dependent, when he's actually correct. There's people that are sitting in their chair, in their home, in their couch, watching TV, just waiting for that check that comes from the government so they can eat or they can pay their rent. And they're dependent. And of course they will never vote Republican, because Republicans talk about taking that away from them. So why would those people ever vote Republican? Well, they should. Because Republicanism understands that it's not by democratic rule that we get our rights, but actually by protecting the minority that we all grow safety, happiness. The Declaration of Independence talks about, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, and yes, at that time when they said men, they really just thought men, males. But today we've progressed to the point where men means every single one of us. Woman, male, female, children, old, middle age. All men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And that's where you get, the rest that everybody knows. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is really what we should be looking for. Well, I ask you, how much life do you have? What pursuit of happiness do you have today? Because we've ignored our roots. I believe the United States is the best country in the world. Not because it's the best country in the world today, but because the seed that was planted was good. And if we go back to the root, and if we go back to what those men were thinking about, based on the knowledge of good and evil, and based on the knowledge of Jesus Christ, not as a God, but as a man like you and I. Most of those men weren't even really believers like you and I think of belief today. Thomas Jefferson didn't believe in religion one bit. He did not believe that there was a God up there actually, in every single man's affairs dealing with what's good and what's bad. He's probably more ecclesiastical than that. If you read Ecclesiastes, you find that King Solomon, if he ever did exist, paints a beautiful picture of what life really is. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Real life. And then Jesus comes along and teaches us to not be hypocrites. To not pray in public. To pray in private. To live righteousness instead of trying to be good when hidden moments our real selves comes out. So deny yourself. Deny all that makes you want more and desire more, either be good or be bad. And be above good and evil. You can't serve two masters. You either serve righteousness or you serve wickedness. You want to call it God or the devil, you want to call it negative or positive, whatever you want to call it, that's up to you. But you can't ignore the fact that there are positive forces and negative forces. Which way do you plan to be? Do you want to fully understand the reason that comes with knowing good and evil and not be ignorant anymore of why you're suffering right now? Or do you take control of your circumstances, your life, your reality, and you yourself live the best life possible? Instead of demanding it from others, demand it of yourself. Everything in front of you is a reflection of you. It's your mirror. If you're around corruption, you're corrupt. Today our government is corrupt because we are corrupt. We have the government we deserved. We have the government that we deserve because we are corrupt. We allow men to stand in front of a stage and lie to us because they are technically, yes, smarter than us. Because we choose to be ignorant. Well, I choose to be ignorant no more. I'm going to use common sense. I know that we can't really know if Jesus Christ resurrected. I don't think he did. But I think what resurrected was a spirit that it permeates throughout the world. There's goodness in what Jesus taught. Not to be worried, to be grateful, to look after the poor, to look for those among us that are defenseless, and to advocate for them. I don't know where this is going. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I just want you to start thinking for yourself. In a couple days, if you see this video before the election, you have a choice of voting for something that started as good, the Republican Party, or something like a Democrat that is mired through history with some really evil acts. I want you to Google it yourself. I want you to study it yourself. Make your own decisions. This might be a crazy man here in Santa Ana talking to you with no clue about what I'm saying, because I'm not formally educated. But the great thing about being here in 2012 is that you can research it yourself. History is there to teach us. And today we have a choice to either serve righteousness or serve wickedness. Righteousness does not mean being good. It means being above it all. Knowing and never losing objectivity, which is the message of Ecclesiastes from King Solomon. So we think. So I leave you with this. Know yourself. Know your circumstances. Know why. And then learn from your mistakes to make a better future. Right now the world is fast approaching our past. They're building the buildings that we used to build. They're building them bigger and greater. Maybe it's time for us to start a different process. Because we are good. Maybe we could start a movement of deconstruction, of simplification. And really live a life where we understand that is less is more. And the simplicity of things is where we find God. And the complexity of things is where we find evil. So, add a letter to good, drop a letter to good, and you find God. Add a letter to evil, and you find the devil. I've never seen images of supernatural stuff. If people have those visions, I don't. I'm a man of science, of knowledge, and I have the wisdom to discern what's right and what's wrong for me. So, live strong, feel your emotions, and enjoy the ride. Because no matter where you're at, you put yourself there. Thank you. My name is Pablo Gomez, and I hope to one day meet you in person, or at least inspire you to find the better you inside of you, because we all are inherently evil, but we all have the knowledge of how to be better. Thank you.